Marc's Arc by Marquis Bellamy and narrated by Marquis Bellamy. Chapter 1: The Recurrence. The aspiring young screenwriter, who was a writer yet not known for it, he had secured a position at a network. Had the majority of his films get put on hold, Marc, 25 years old, woke up and felt as gloomy as the rain pouring outside. He was contemplating a screenplay that was due for a film he was involved in. With a deadline in a week, he experienced a writer's block he had never encountered before. He experienced an immense pain in his chest, along with a pounding headache that made it difficult to concentrate. His anxiety and depression returned, yet he was unaware of its intensity. He searched for his graphic novel that typically assists him in coping for a while, but it wasn't effective. Not at his work time, he takes a pill for it, which typically helps, and makes his way there. The moment his assistant enters his office, Marc shouts at him and immediately feels remorse. He can't fathom that he would shout such words at his assistant, who was essentially his sole friend. The assistant leaves in hugs, and Marc weeps while trying to think of script ideas, but nothing is emerging. It feels as if he has lost his gift. He returned home early and struggled to understand why it wasn't fading away. Then he sought help from a therapist as a final option. On that dreary evening, he searched for a therapist and discovered the top-rated, who was Coleman, spending half of his weekly funds to afford the service. Coleman posed the most intimate and challenging questions, leaving Marc struggling to respond, flustered and tripping over his words. Coleman informed him that he was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and persistent depressive disorder, experiencing continuous anxiety and a lasting low mood that impacted his family and his writing. Marc appeared anxious and stated he didn't want it revealed to the public, as he feared anyone would find out in the future if he became successful. Coleman gazed into Marc's eyes, assuring him that everything was fine and that they would resolve the issue, handing him pills for the first time until their next appointment. The moment Marc exited the room, Coleman felt a surge of emotions, unsure how to handle such profound depression and anxiety. He reached out to his therapist friends, but they were at a loss, having never encountered anything like this before. Coleman realized he had encountered his client he couldn't help. He considers going on a retreat and taking Marc with him to see if they can resolve it together. The following appointment comes, and Coleman asks him to join the retreat, but Marc hurriedly declines. Frazzled by the script he hadn't begun that was due in a few days, Coleman realizes this and assures him it would just be for 3 days. After a lengthy hour-long discussion about it, Marc eventually relents and cancels work for those days. Chapter 2: The Retreat. During their retreat, they engage in guided meditation, yoga, journaling, reflection, and nature walks. After 3 days, it proves effective, revitalizing his brainstorming and allowing ideas to flow. He begins writing, making significant progress before going to sleep. When he awakens, the sensation resurfaces, and the writer block reappears. With just 2 days remaining, he sobs and mopes in his bed, pondering why that retreat was effective, or just that night, and he doesn't wish the trouble culminating after the 3-day retreat. Instead, he contacts his parents, Donna and Alan, whom he hasn't visited in years due to work and relocating to Los Angeles. He inquires how his granddad, Martin Barron, a renowned therapist and writer, managed to overcome his depression and anxiety. They explain that he consistently wrote in his booklet whenever he was filling the road, and shared what he did each time they surfaced. Marc inquires about the booklet's location, and they reply, "We're not sure, but he may have decided to be buried close to his home after he dies." Marc promptly hangs up, heads to his house, and spends hours digging, but uncovers nothing. Frustrated, he returns home and pouts. Upon waking, he feels a strong urge to return to the house. It rained the previous night, and when he drove up, the booklet was all wet next to the dug-up hole, which a police officer picked up after the homeowners called them. Marc rushes to speak with the officer to inform him that it belongs to his grandfather, but the officer responds with a loud, "No," and they begin to argue. The officer brings Marc to the station due to the holes he dug. He wasn't aware that you can go to the station for that. Chapter 3: Figuring It Out. As soon as they arrive to the station, he overwhelms them with questions, and Marc responds, all flustered, saying, "It belonged to my grandfather who has passed, and I'm dealing with the script in this movie." The officer is skeptical of his story, so Marc contacts his parents, who disclose it pertains to his grandfather. The officer hands him the booklet, and Marc feels ecstatic, but the officer informs him that he must remain at the station for several days for digging the holes. Marc pleads, "Could it just be one day? The script is due in 2 days." The officer replies that if the homeowner agrees, then perhaps. He makes a call and they agree. Once he steps out, he grabs the booklet and discovers what his grandfather did to overcome his issues. Learning that he takes specific pills and watches movies to stimulate his mind and inspire him. Marc takes it in, obtains the pills, and views the films for half of the day. Yet it still has no effect on him. He contemplates giving up and not going through with it. Turns off the movie. You could hear the sound of the rain, and lightning loud as ever. His dog, Apollo, prompts him to fetch his dog food to feed him. Setting his phone down for one of the first time in days after searching for what to do, he consciously absorbs his environment and embraces the present moment. He typically focuses on the future, but now an idea arises about what to write, leading him to brainstorm and complete the remainder of his script. He settles on the theme for the movie, his life navigating through these disorders and how they can sometimes contribute to a better life. Once he finishes, he submits it and realizes that what is effective for others isn't effective for him and his kind of anxiety and depression. He feels satisfied because he realizes that remaining present when his thoughts drift improves his focus and creativity. He pets Apollo and commits to calling his parents more frequently from now on after witnessing his granddad's struggles. He enters the relationship to address his emptiness and seeks to expand his family, comprised of himself and his dog. The film becomes a success, grossing $1 billion at the box office, receiving 10 Oscar nominations, and winning for original screenplay. Marc is enjoying his dream life. He achieved a successful film, a relationship, fame, and the respect he desired. He had to endure this to attain all his desires and express gratitude to his granddad and parents. He assures he remains in the present daily by avoiding his phone, meditating, concentrating on his breath, and observing its rise and fall, accepting it without judgment. He and his partner take daily walks with Apollo, and they start their own studio,